Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
Okay,
wabarakatuh.
good morning, students.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
Okay, so our topic today, adjective clauses. So this is the continuation of our previous topic. Yeah, last week we were talking about relative clause or adjective clauses. So we're still continuing because this topic can be a bit confusing. So I want everybody understand and clear about every single thing. Okay, so adjective clause. So before that, the purpose or the objective of our learning today is students are able to identify the social function, the structure of the text of adjective clauses. Number two, students are able to differentiate the restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. And the last but not the least, student will be able to apply relative pronoun in adjective clause. Or you will be able to apply or to use relative pronoun in adjective clause. Okay, so I hope you still remember what adjective clause is. Okay, if you don't, so let me remind you what adjective clause is. Adjective clauses or relative clause, it is like sentences inside sentences. Sentences inside sentences. We are talking about sentence in the sentence. And the job of adjective clauses here is to modify. What does it mean modify? To give description, to identify, and to make it specific. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, adjective clause is to modify. What does it mean modify? To describe, to identify, and to make everything specific. Okay, to modify a noun, phrases that they follow. And the part of adjective clause, it consists of relative pronoun. We need relative pronoun for sure. Or relative pronoun also can be called a connecting word. Okay. And the next is we need a subject and we need a predicate. Predicate is verb. Okay, that is the part of adjective clauses. I hope you still remember relative pronoun, subject, predicate. Okay, next. All right, so this is just to remind you what are the relative pronoun? Yeah, who, whom, whose, which, and that. And also maybe where, why, when. But here let's be specific. Who? So I give the explanation here. How do you use who? Who is used to refer to people. You don't use who for your cat or for your dog if you have a dog or for your chicken. No. Okay. Who is only for people and it's used to replace a subject. To replace a subject. Okay, and then whom also for people, and then it used to replace an object of the sentence. Whose, yeah, it used to refer possession. What does it mean possession? Possession, it means when you have something, yeah, for possession, kepemilikan, kepunyaan, kepemilikan, okay. And then which it is used to refer to animals, an object or a thing, non-people. It is for a non-person. So this is the opposite of who. Who is for people and which is for a thing, animal or another object. And what is it for? Who replace a subject, which can replace subject and also object of thing. And that, what is that? It is used to refer to people and animal. You can use that for people and animal, and it replaces who and which. So Instead of using who, whom, whose, or which, you can use that. But later on, we will study more. There are some cases you cannot replace who, whom, whose, and which by that. So when that can replace who, whom, and whose, and which, we will study later on. Okay, I hope you understand. Next. Okay, I'll give you a quick refresher to refresh a little bit. I already explained the other day or last week. What is adjective? Adjective, in other words, you can say modified noun or pronoun. A word that modify nouns or pronoun. It can be word, one word. It can be a phrase, more than one word. That is adjective. And clauses, I believe you still remember that, what clauses is. Right, clauses is group of words contain both subject and verb. So there will be subject and verb. But phrase has no subject and has no verb. It's only group of word. But clauses is group of word but consists of subject and verb. And then also something that you have to understand or to remember is subordinate clauses, or the clauses cannot stand alone. It has a subject and also it has a verb or a predicate, but the sentence cannot be understood well. It means it cannot stand alone. It need other sentence, to give a full meaning. That clause need other clause or other sentence. I hope you understand. So, or you can say dependent clause, subordinate clauses. You can say dependent clauses. So, dependent clauses, independent clauses. Independent, it means it can stand alone. Independent, a very independent person. It means the person is very independent. It does not depend on others. Right? So dependent, it means it depends on others. So dependent clauses, it means the sentence or the clauses need other sentence or other clauses to have a full meaning or to have a complete meaning. Okay, class, you got it? Right, so the next. All right, so this is more explanation. Adjective clauses are dependent, like I said before. So which part is dependent? Okay, adjective clause is dependent. So adjective clause is dependent. Yeah, dependent clause. A dependent clause is a group of words that consists of subject and verb. Yet, namun, it is not a complete sentence that can stand alone. Yeah, it cannot stand alone because it's not complete sentence. I'm gonna give you some samples here. Look at this one. The first sample: people who are smart follow the rules. People who are smart follow the rules. Right. In this sentence, there are two clauses actually. There are two clauses: dependent clause and independent clause. My question is, can you find which is dependent and which is independent? Yusli Tamara, can you find the dependent and independent here? Yusli, can you?
The independent one is people who are smart,
Mm-hmm.
and the dependent one is follow the rules, isn't it?
Okay. So people who are smart follow the rules, right? Okay. Here, who are smart? Who are smart is actually a clause, but it's called not independent, but dependent. Who are smart? That is dependent. Yang pandai, orang yang pandai. You understand the word yang pandai? This sentence has a subject and also has a predicate. Who is a subject and are is a predicate. But even though it has a subject and predicate, but we don't understand. Who are smart? Yang pandai. So what is yang pandai? So the independent clause is people follow the rules. Orang-orang yang mengikuti peraturan. You understand? Is it full complete sentence or not? Complete meaning? Yes. People follow the rules. Orang-orang mengikuti aturan. So people follow the rules. That is independent. That sentence does not need other sentence. But this sentence, the italic one, who are smart, yang orang yang pandai, yang smart. So who are smart is dependent clause. People follow the rule is independent. So that's why who are smart need the clause people follow the rules. This dependent clause need another word, another sentence, which is independent clause. So it's gonna be a complete meaning when it's coming together. People who are smart follow the rules. So again, this one who are smart is dependent because it's dependent and also it's called adjective clause. So adjective clause is dependent. Adjective clause is dependent. So who are smart is adjective. Adjective of people. What kind of people? Oh, people. What kind of people follow the rules? Oh, people who are smart.
People smart.
So who are smart is adjective. But adjective clause, adjective in a kind of clause, not a single word. Okay? Because you can say, people who are smart follow the rules. Maybe you are wondering what kind of people follow the rules or people who are smart. So who are smart is giving or modify the noun. Which is the noun? People. Describe what kind of people. Yeah, adjective describe or modify noun or pronoun. So who are smart modify noun. Which is the noun? People. People who are smart. Oh, now you understand what kind of people follow the rules. People who are smart follow the rules. Okay, the next sentence. Charlie has a friend whose daughter lives in China. Can you find which is adjective clause here?
Yes, sir, I can.
Yes,
Which
sir.
one is adjective clause?
Let me,
Whose
sir.
daughter lives in China.
That's right. Whose daughter lives in China. Which is the independent clause?
Charlie has a friend.
That's right. So Charlie has a friend. Yeah, Charlie has a friend. But what kind of friend? So then we need we need more explanation or description. That's why adjective clause here modify the noun. Yeah, what kind of friend? Charlie has a friend. Yeah, oh, whose daughter lives in China. Yang anaknya itu tinggal di China. So we use whose. I hope you still remember why do we use whose here, not who. Ya, yang anaknya, ya, kepemilikan, possessive. Charlie has a friend whose daughter, yang anaknya. Ya, it mean Charlie has a friend. A friend which friend? A friend whose daughter live in China. Yeah. A friend whose car is new, for example. Okay, got it. Number 3, the smart teenager whose parents are my neighbors went to prestigious college. So you can you find the adjective clause here?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Which is the adjective clause?
Whose
Whose
parents
parents are my neighbors.
Okay, which is the independent clause?
The smart teenager went to a prestigious.
Very good, that's right. The smart teenager went to prestigious college. Okay, the adjective clause describe what word? Which word is being described by adjective clause here?
The smart teenager.
They must smart teenager.
Teenager, yeah, okay, the smart teenager. That's right. All right, I think you understand. Okay, okay. Number 2, number 4, and number 5. Yeah, you can check it again later. I'm afraid we don't have enough time, so we continue to the next slide. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next.
Yes, sir.
Adjective clause are dependent. Okay, now this is the elaboration of that. Daniel, who was late again today, sit next to me in English. Right, so can you find the adjective clause here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
which is
sir.
the adjective clause?
Who
Who
was
was
late
late
again?
again today?
That's right, who was late again today. So which is the independent clause?
Daniel sits next.
Daniel.
Daniel sits next to me in English.
That's right. Daniel sits next to me in English. Okay, let's elaborate here. Okay, in the antecedent is Daniel. Ya, orang pengganti yang pendahulunya itu Daniel. Daniel is antecedent. Who back refer to Daniel. Okay. Daniel, who was late again today? It means who? Daniel was late again today. But Daniel is replaced by who? Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
the dependent clause means Daniel was late again today. Who is replacing Daniel in the second clause and relating to the subject of the independent clause. So Daniel, who was late again today, sits next to me in English. Yeah, who is the subject of the dependent clause? Okay, who here is the subject of the dependent clause. Yeah. Next. Okay, now, okay, here is a bit confusing maybe. Right, so relative or adjective clause is divided into two. If you notice my samples, the previous samples, there are some differences if you can notice that. But if you don't worry, we are going to talk about that here. So adjective clauses divided into two. What are they? Restrictive and non-restrictive clauses, or you can say definite and non-definite clauses. The other day or last week we talked about non-definite and non-definite. All right. So you also can say restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. What are those restrictive and non-restrictive clauses? Restrictive clauses, it modify an adjective clause. Modify an adjective clause is restrictive if it is needed to identify or specific or clarify which non-phrase is being talked about in the sentence that contain the clause. If the clause is restrictive, it will answer the question which or noun. So it means that the conclusion is restrictive clause is the adjective clause here is very necessary. Okay, it is very necessary. We need it. We need the adjective clause here. We cannot drop it. We cannot omit that. For example, the person whom Judy met at Ken's party called her last night. The person whom Judy met at Ken's party called, okay, which is the adjective clause? Whom Judy met at Ken's party, right? That is adjective clause. So this adjective clause in this case, it's called restrictive clause, and we cannot drop it. If we drop it, if we erase it, if we don't use that, the person called her last night. Who is the person? We are still wondering. We are still questioning who is the person. There are many people. We are still wondering. Then we need an we need an information. We need more information. And it is necessary. We really need it. The person, which person? Oh, whom Judy met at Ken's party. Because there are many people maybe called Judy, right? So, but can you be more specific? Which people? Which one? Okay, which one? Or the person whom Judy met at Ken's party. Called her last night. So some person called Judy last night. So this is the elaboration. Some person or some people called Judy last night. So which person called Judy last night? So we need more specific, or the person whom she met at Ken's party. You got it?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
this clause is restrictive because it is needed to identify the person. The adjective clause here, it's called restrictive because it is needed to identify the person. Yeah, to be more specific, which one? Because there are many people, many men called Judy. And then if we give more explanation, whom she met at Ken's party. So this is an example of restrictive clause. Okay, here is another example. The soup that also the previous lesson, the previous sample, also you can use whom you can replace by that. Okay, that you can use that, the person whom or the person that she met at Ken's party. The next sample, the soup that, or you can use which here because soup is thing, right? The soup that or which Sally made is too salty. Okay, there are many soup. What kind of which soup? What you mean? This if you say the soup is too salty, there are many soups there. So which soup? Yeah, maybe I made a soup. Sally also made a soup or cook a soup. Usually also Sahrul also cook a soup. So which one is salty? I don't think all the soup are salty. My soup is not salty, but whose soup is salty? Then in more explanation, the soup is too salty. Which soup? The soup which or that Sally made. Okay. This clause is restrictive too. Yeah, it's very necessary too. Yeah, it's so because it shows which soup is being referred to the salty here. So you cannot drop it. If you drop it, people will be confusing. Which soup? Whose soup? All right. Okay. Next. All right. So the cars that, or you can say which is parked beside Joe's belong to Tina. So we are using passive here. The car that is or which is parked beside Joe's car, yeah, belongs to Tina. You can make it Joe's, or you can say Joe's car belongs to Tina. So the elaboration is one of those cars belong to Tina. There are many cars parked there, but which one is the car which beside you? So which one is Tina's car? Now which one? The one that is parked beside Joe's. So this is also restrictive because we need more specific here. If you don't tell the car, because many car, people may be wondering or confused. There are many cars here. Which cars you mean? Oh, beside Joe's. Yeah, the cars which is parked beside Joe's. The last sample, once again, the clause is restrictive is necessary information if A and wants B to know which car she is referring to. This is only an explanation. So I hope you understand. All right, so this is restrictive. It means that you cannot drop it. You cannot omit that. You cannot erase the adjective clause. Why? Because the restrictive clause here is very important. It's very necessary. We need it. Otherwise, people will be confused or wondering, or the sentence cannot be complete, or it will not have a complete meaning. Okay, so remember here, when you are writing this one, restrictive clause, you don't use any comma here, okay? So no comma here. So look at this one. The cars, okay, there's no comma. There is no comma. So that is one of the character of restrictive clauses. So next is, the second one is non-restrictive clauses. So what is non-restrictive clauses? An adjective clause is non-restrictive clause is if, it's closed here, if the clause is not needed to identify which non-phrase is being talked about. You don't really need it. The sentence can be understood even though you don't have the adjective clause. People still understand. It means it's not really necessary. Yeah, it's not really necessary. It still has a meaning. The sentence still have a meaning, even though you don't give the adjective clause there. But it doesn't mean that the clause should be omitted from the sentence. Yeah, but you don't. But even though like that, you don't need to. You don't need to drop it. You don't need to. The sentence or the adjective clause should not. Should be doesn't mean that should be omitted or should be dropped, because it gives more information, or the information is extra. It's more clear. It's clearer. So the example of non-restrictive clauses is Jim Peterson, whom Judy met at Scan's party, called her last night. How about if I say Jim Person called her last night? Jim Peterson called Judy last night. Do you understand? Are you still wondering? Are you still confused?
No, sir.
Are you still asking me who is calling Judy last night?
No,
I
because
told
it's
you.
clear already.
I told you Jim Peterson. Oh yeah. So you don't need to ask. You don't need to ask who is calling. Who called her? I told you, Jim Peterson. Right? If I say one man or a man called Judy, who is the man? Oh, the man whom Judy met at Ken's party. So whom Judy met at Ken's party is not, it actually is not really necessary, but it gives extra information. Yeah, it gives more information. Jim Peterson, whom Judy met at Ken's party, called her last night. So here we use, look at this one, the difference. We use comma here, right? And comma here. This clause is non-restrictive. It's not needed to identify the person who called Judy, because the person is identified by the name Jim Peterson, because we give the name. The person has a name already. You don't need to ask, who is Jim Peterson? Okay, find it in Google then. Okay, next is non-restrictive clauses. The other sample of non-restrictive clauses, Sally's vegetable beef soup, which is in the big white bowl, is too salty. Is it clear already or not? If I say Sally's vegetable beef soup is too salty, is it complete meaning or not?
Yeah, complete.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sure.
Are you still confused or not? Whose soup is salty? Whose soup is salty? I told you, Sally's vegetable beef soup. Okay? So when I say Sally's vegetable beef soup is too salty, that's okay, that's fine. You don't need to ask again, okay? Because it's understood already. Do you still have time or not? Okay, the clause is okay. The clause inside the commas is not needed. So this one, no need. Yeah, in the comma, it's not really necessary, but it gives more information. So knowing that the soup is in the big white bowl is extra information. So the clause which is in the big white bowl is non-restrictive. I think you understand this, right? So the next sample is just like that. Okay, just similar. It's same. So. Okay, the one thing that I need to tell you is, okay, so here, there are two important things to remember about restrictive and non-restrictive adjective clauses: their punctuation and the relative pronoun that they use. The punctuation, what is punctuation? Punctuation is tanda baca, like a comma, full stop. Okay, so non-restrictive clauses, the punctuation is because non-restrictive adjective clauses give extra information, so we set them apart from main sentence by using comma. So we separate them. How do we separate them? By using comma. So that is non-restrictive clause. We use comma. Okay, we use comma between the noun and the adjective clause, comma, and then the next of independent clause. For example, like this one, Jim Peterson, comma, whom Judy met at Ken's party, comma, called her last night. Hamburgers, which are actually made from beef, are popular in USA. Hamburger, yeah, people know hamburger. Hamburger is made of beef. So we use comma here and then comma here. When you say hamburgers are popular in the USA, people understand. Jim Peterson called her last night. People understand. But if you want to give more extra information, whom Judy met against party, that will be more information. And then don't forget to put comma and comma there. The next is a special note. Do not use comma in restrictive adjective clause, but in restrictive adjective or non or definite clause, defined clause, so you don't need comma. So for example, like the person whom Judy met against party called her last night. This one restrictive or non-restrictive? Is it restrictive or non?
Restrictive.
Restrictive. Why is it restrictive?
Because we can't understand the sentence without the.
Yeah, we don't understand. We still wondering, right? Who is the person? Who is the person here? It's still general, okay? The person whom Judy met against party call it, okay, and then you understand that the person is whom Judy met at scan party. But when you said the person called her last name, who is the person? I don't know. Who? I'm still wondering. I'm still questioning. So, do you put comma here or not?
No.
No, we don't need comma. That's why this sentence is wrong. We don't need comma here, and also we don't need comma here. Okay. Also this one. This afternoon you got a call from a woman who also called you yesterday. A woman. If I say this afternoon you got a call from woman. Woman. There are many women. Who is the woman? And then you give an explanation who also called you yesterday. Okay, I understand. So do you need comma here or not?
No, sir.
No, we don't need comma here. Okay, so these two sentences are wrong. We should not use comma here, okay? So here, non-restrictive clauses, pronoun, okay, use in both restrictive and non-restrictive. Okay, this relative pronoun, who, whom, which, and whose, we can use that in restrictive clause. We can use that in both restrictive and non-restrictive. I mean, this relative pronoun can be replaced by that. Okay? When it is in restrictive, this sentence can be replaced by that. This relative pronoun can be used in restrictive clause and also non-restrictive clauses. Who, whom, which, and whose. But we use that only in restrictive clauses. It means when the sentence is non-restrictive clause, you cannot replace this by that. So this can be used, this and this together. I mean, whom, who, which, whose can be replaced by that when it is in restrictive. Okay? But when who, whom, which, and whose in non-restrictive, it cannot be replaced by that. So that only can be used only in restrictive clauses, not in non-restrictive clauses. Another example here. Jim Peterson that Judy met at Ken's party called her last night. Is it good or not? What is wrong with this sentence? What is wrong with this sentence?
We don't need comma after Jim Peterson.
Do we need comma or not?
No, sir.
We need comma.
Sir.
This is non-restrictive or restrictive?
Non-restrictive.
Non-restrictive. Non-restrictive, we need comma or not?
No.
We need, sir.
We need comma.
We need comma, sir.
So what is wrong with this sentence?
Use
Because
the word
Yes,
that.
that.
Oh, that's right. We use that. We cannot use that here. Yeah? Yeah. Whom cannot be replaced by that. What is this? What should be here? Whom, right? Whom cannot be replaced by that here. Yeah. That, because this is non-restrictive, that cannot enter here. So the sentence should be, Jim Peterson, whom Judy American's party called her last night. Understand?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so now I'm gonna try. I'm gonna test you with the quiz. Okay, make it quick, okay? Number 1, exercise. State whether the following sentences are correct or incorrect. Okay, number 1. Edward Johnson, who has been accepted by several colleges, will go to Harvard this fall. Okay, so is it good sentence or not?
No,
It's
sir.
wrong.
Yes, sir.
Why? What is wrong? What is wrong?
Because
Because
Need
we
comma
need
after
we need
comma.
comma
Yeah, we need comma here. Where do we put comma? Where do we put comma?
After
after
Johnson.
Edward
after
Johnson.
Johnson.
Okay, here and until here. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
And
sir.
number 2. Number 2.
That's wrong, sir. Because
Wrong,
Wrong.
sir.
Why is it
Yes, sir.
wrong? Why is
Because
it
Because
wrong?
We use that.
We
comma
use
do not
that.
use that, sir. Before
Okay, only that.
That's
And
comma
we need
we need
comma.
comma,
Okay, that's
sir.
right. There are 2 mistakes here. We use that and there is no comma here. Well, actually here we need comma and then we don't need that, but we need another relative pronoun. Who is? Yeah, who here, right?
Yes, sir.
We need who here. Okay, number 3. Is it
wrong,
good sentence
sir.
or not?
No,
Is it good sentence or not?
it's good sentence.
Good, sir.
Ah, okay, this is good sentence. So number 1, number 2 is non-restrictive clauses, and number 3 is restrictive clauses. And restrictive clauses here we don't need comma, and then we can use that. Okay, you got it?
Yes, sir.
Got it?
All right, so
Yes.
now we are at the end of our meeting today. I hope you understand. Okay, so I'm gonna give you another quiz in Schoology. Please do your exercises and tasks in our Schoology. And I hope you understand. If you have a problem, feel free to ask. You can send me an email or WhatsApp for question, or you can discuss in Schoology. I think that's all for today. I hope everybody enjoy the class and understand what we are learning today. And at the end, we close by reciting Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
I see you again next week. Thank you very much for joining our class today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you,
Assalamualaikum
sir.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, sir.